I still hear the echo of his words in my head. "You're useless, Sarah. Pack your things and get out." The office was dead silent, every eye on me, every breath held. I stood there, my hands trembling, my heart pounding like a drum. 12 years of my life. Late nights, missed birthdays, endless deadlines, reduced to one cruel sentence. My name's Sarah Nguyen, and this is the story of how I went from being called a nobody to bringing an arrogant CEO to his knees. It started on a Monday morning at Horizon Media, our Chicago ad agency. The air smelled of coffee and printer ink, and sunlight streamed through the glass walls. I was at my desk, tweaking a pitch for our biggest client yet, the kind of deal that could make or break our year. But when I walked into the conference room for the morning briefing, everything changed. A stranger stood at the head of the table. He was young, barely 30, with a tailored navy suit, slicked back hair, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice smooth as glass. "I'm Ethan Caldwell, your new CEO. Horizon Media is about to enter a new era, and I'm here to make it happen." A few people clapped politely. I didn't. Not because I was rude, but because I'd heard the rumors. Ethan wasn't a visionary. He was the chairman's nephew, parachuted in after our founder, Margaret Pierce, sold the company to a conglomerate. Margaret had built Horizon from a scrappy startup into a respected name in advertising. She wasn't perfect, but she knew our worth. Ethan, he looked at us like we were furniture. I'd been with Horizon for 12 years, starting as an intern straight out of college. I was 22, broke and hungry to prove myself. I worked 80-hour weeks, learned the industry inside out, and climbed to senior project manager. I wrote pitches that won million-dollar contracts, calmed furious clients, and fixed campaigns when others dropped the ball. Margaret called me her secret weapon, the one who kept the chaos in check. But 6 months ago, everything shifted. Margaret announced she was stepping down for personal reasons. We later learned her health was failing. Cancer, stage 3. She sold Horizon to a conglomerate called Apex Global, promising they'd preserve our legacy. Instead, they sent Ethan, a man with zero ad experience, an MBA from some Ivy League school, and an ego the size of Lake Michigan. Ethan's first week was a warning sign. He called a team assessment meeting, strutting in with a tablet and a smirk. He grilled everyone, but when he got to me, his tone turned sharp. "Sarah Nguyen, 12 years. That's a long time. What exactly do you bring to the table?" I kept my cool. "I manage our top accounts, including the Vega contract worth $5 million last year. I also oversee campaign delivery and client relations." He leaned back, twirling a pen. "Sounds like you're coasting on past wins. We need innovators, not relics." Relics. The word hit like a slap. My team exchanged glances. They knew I'd saved their butts countless times, staying late, rewriting scripts, salvaging deals. But Ethan didn't care. He was here to make a mark, and I was in his way. Over the next month, Ethan turned Horizon into his personal fiefdom. He hired a posse of his old college buddies, guys in their 20s who called themselves disruptors, but couldn't tell a storyboard from a spreadsheet. They got the high-profile projects, while my team was stuck formatting decks or fetching coffee. Ethan's insults grew bolder. He'd stop by my desk, tossing out barbs. "Still grinding away, Sarah? Don't you ever get bored? Once, in a team meeting, he cut me off mid-sentence. Let's hear from someone with fresh ideas. No offense, Sarah, but you're a bit dated. My colleague Maya, a junior designer, whispered to me later, "He's gunning for you." I nodded. I know, but I'm not going anywhere. Famous last words. One Friday, Ethan called me into his office. His desk was littered with energy drink cans, and he didn't even look up from his laptop. "Sarah, your latest pitch for the Vega account was a disaster. The client's pissed. You're dropping the ball." I took a deep breath. The client changed their brief 3 times in 24 hours. I reworked the pitch overnight to meet their new demands. He slammed his laptop shut. "Excuses. You're a manager, Sarah. Act like one. Or are you just useless?" Useless. That word burned. I'd sacrificed so much for this company. Weekends, holidays, my daughter's school plays. I'd eaten lunch at my desk for years, fixed other people's mistakes, and never complained. And now, this entitled kid was calling me useless? I walked out, my hands shaking. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at a photo of my daughter, Lynn. She was 10, with my eyes and her dad's smile. I'd promised her a better life. But Ethan was tearing it apart. I couldn't let him win. The following week, I stayed late to revise the Vega pitch. While searching the company server for old campaign data, I noticed a folder marked Restricted Acquisition Records. My access level, Senior Manager, let me in. I hesitated, then clicked. Inside were hundreds of emails between Margaret and Apex Global's CFO. As I scrolled, my stomach dropped. Horizon had fudged its revenue numbers during the acquisition, inflating them by 30% with fake invoices and doctored reports. Apex paid $50 million more than the company was worth. If this leaked, lawsuits would follow, and Ethan, who'd signed the final audit as CEO, would be toast. I sat back, my mind racing. This wasn't just leverage, it was a grenade. I spent the weekend copying the files to an encrypted USB drive, which I locked in a safe at home. Then I dug into my employment contract. 3 years ago, when Margaret promoted me, she'd added a clause at my insistence. If I was terminated without cause, I'd get severance worth twice my annual salary, $200,000. Plus access to company systems until the dispute was settled. It was my insurance policy. Ethan, with his corner office arrogance, probably never glanced at it. I called my old friend Lisa, a lawyer who'd worked with Horizon before Apex took over. Over coffee, I showed her the contract. "It's airtight," she said, grinning. "If they fire you without cause, you've got them by the throat." And those emails? They're dynamite. I also confided in Maya and Raj, my closest colleagues. Maya, a brilliant designer, had been passed over for promotions because Ethan favored his buddies. Raj, our data analyst, was fed up with Ethan's micromanaging. "We're with you," Raj said. "But be careful. Ethan's ruthless." For the next 2 weeks, I played the model employee, keeping my head down while quietly preparing. I backed up every project file I'd worked on, years of campaigns, client contacts, and budgets. I changed my admin passwords and documented every insult Ethan threw my way, saving emails and recording snippets of his rants when I could. I also reached out to a former client, Jenna, who now ran a rival agency. "If things go south," I told her, "I might need a lifeline." She laughed. Sarah, you're a legend. My door's always open. Meanwhile, Ethan's reign got worse. He botched a major campaign, blaming my team when the client pulled out. He cut our budgets, forcing us to work miracles with nothing. And he kept taunting me. Sarah, you're on thin ice, he'd say, smirking. Shape up or ship out. It all came to a head during a company-wide meeting. Ethan stood at the front, announcing a restructuring. His eyes locked on me. Sarah Nguyen, you've been here forever, but you're not pulling your weight. Today's your last day. Security will escort you out. The room froze. Maya gasped. Raj clenched his fists. I felt the weight of every stare, but I stood up, my voice steady. Ethan, before you sign that termination letter, check your inbox. I sent the board some documents about the acquisition. You'll want to read them. His face paled. What are you babbling about? He snapped, but his voice cracked. I stepped closer. 12 years, Ethan. I know where the bodies are buried. Those emails could burn this place down. By lunchtime, Ethan's phone was ringing off the hook. The board called an emergency meeting. I'd forwarded just 3 emails, enough to prove the revenue fraud without revealing my full hand. I also emailed HR, citing my contract and demanding severance plus a retraction of my termination. Ethan panicked. He hired an IT firm to lock me out, but I'd already secured my access. His team, his disruptors, couldn't run the Vega campaign without my files. The client threatened to sue, and other accounts started wobbling. The office was a war zone. Missed deadlines, angry calls, and Ethan screaming at everyone but himself. My phone buzzed with texts from colleagues. Maya, you're a badass. Ethan's losing it. Raj, the board's grilling him. Keep the pressure on. I smiled. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. 2 days later, Cynthia Reed, a board member, called. Sarah, we need you on a video call, now. Her tone was cold, but professional. I joined, dressed in my sharpest blazer, facing 6 board members and Ethan, who looked like he'd aged a decade overnight. Ms. Nguyen, Cynthia said, you've restricted system access and sent us troubling documents. I nodded. My contract allows me to protect my work until my termination is resolved. As for the emails, I'm sure you've seen the numbers don't add up. Ethan exploded. She's bluffing! She's trying to sabotage us! Cynthia silenced him with a look. Ethan, did you review her contract? He stammered. I thought it was standard. I leaned forward. It wasn't. You should have done your homework. Cynthia asked, What do you want, Sarah? I didn't hesitate. 1. Retract my termination. 2. Pay my severance, $200,000 per the contract. 3. Ethan apologizes publicly for his actions. 4. Reinstate my team's projects and give them raises. They've been screwed over long enough. Ethan's jaw dropped. This is extortion. I shook my head. It's accountability. You called me useless. Prove you were wrong. The board exchanged glances. Cynthia said, We'll consider your terms. That night, my phone rang. It was Margaret Pierce, her voice weak but unmistakable. Sarah, I've been following this mess. I'm so sorry. She heard about the emails, the chaos, everything. I read your contract, she said. I put that clause in because I trusted you. You were Vietnamese. I'm proud of you. She invited me to a private meeting the next day. I'm still a shareholder, she said. I'm done watching Ethan destroy my company. Let's fix this. I was floored. Margaret was back. And she was on my side. The next morning, I met Margaret at a quiet cafe. She looked frail, her hands trembling, but her eyes were fierce. I trusted Ethan to lead, she said. He failed. You didn't. She slid a folder across the table. It was a proposal. Chief Operating Officer, a 20% stake in Horizon, and a seat on the board. I blinked. Margaret, I'm not a CEO. She smiled. You don't need to be. You're a leader. Help us pick one. She also had a plan. Vote Ethan out at the next board meeting. He's done, she said. The board meeting was electric. Margaret spoke first, laying out Ethan's failures and my contributions. Sarah Nguyen is Horizon's backbone. She deserves better. She proposed my promotion and Ethan's removal. Ethan tried to argue, but the board had seen the emails. The vote was 5-1. He was gone. I stood up. I'll take the COO role, but my team gets raises, back pay, and permanent contracts. They've earned it. The board agreed. I logged into the system, typed a few commands, and Horizon roared back to life. Campaigns resumed, clients returned, and the chaos faded. Ethan didn't apologize. He packed his office and vanished. I heard he took a low-level job at a failing startup. His name, toxic in the industry. I didn't care. His silence was enough. But the victory felt hollow. 12 years of loyalty, and it took a war to be seen. I thought of Lynn, my daughter, and the promises I'd made. This wasn't just for me. It was for her, for my team, for every worker who'd been called useless. I spent the next month rebuilding Horizon. I hired new talent, mentored my team, and helped select a new CEO, a woman named Carla who listened and led with heart. But I wasn't done. I'd spent too long in someone else's shadow. 6 months later, I launched Nguyen Creative, my own agency. It was small, with a scrappy team of dreamers, some from Horizon, others fresh grads with fire in their eyes. We landed our first client, a local nonprofit, and the work felt right. At the opening, I spoke to my team. I was called a nobody, I said, but I learned something. Your worth isn't what others say. It's what you build, who you fight for, and how you rise when they push you down. The applause wasn't loud, but it was ours. Today, Nguyen Creative is growing. I mentor young professionals, teaching them to read contracts, negotiate, and stand tall. Horizon's thriving under Carla, a testament to what happens when you value people over egos. Ethan? He's a ghost now, scraping by in a one-bedroom apartment. His name erased from the industry. He thought he'd rule. I don't gloat. I don't need to. People like him fall on their own. Me? My name's on my company's door, on contracts, on dreams I'm building every day. Sarah Nguyen, not useless, not forgotten, a fighter, a creator, a woman who rewrote her story.